Welcome everyone to the Executive Compass. This is where we get insights from executive firm founders. We'll dive into their story, how they got started, their challenges and opportunities, and how they're shaping their business for the future. For those of you joining or watching this podcast today, I'm Amisha Srimankar, founder of Vectra Growth Partners, and today's guest is Henning Schwinum, founder of Vendux LLC. Hi Henning. So
Thank you,
pleased to have
Misha.
you.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling in from San Luis Obispo, California.
Wonderful. Great weather, I'm assuming.
It's sunny and warm outside, yes.
Lovely. I'm jealous. Henning, for our audience who's watching, do you mind doing a brief introduction, please?
Absolutely. If I go all the way back to my youth, I was born and raised in Germany. I came to the US first when I was 16 years old on a student exchange, but went back and ultimately ended up moving to the US about 12 years ago. Initially for a job, and then I kept staying and then started my own business. From a professional perspective, I've been a sales leader for most of my career, about 25 years. Sold chemicals, sold SaaS, sold professional services, built teams of one and built teams of 100, different companies, different geographies. And about 6 years ago, started Vendux to be a matchmaker in the fractional sales leadership space.
Wonderful. So I think that's the gap that has you convinced in the market. And maybe that was one of the prime reasons you built a recruiting company that just focused on this niche of pairing fractional executives with companies. Would that be fair to say?
Well, 6.5 years ago, my original intent was to be a fractional executive myself.
Interesting.
And I had two revelations very quickly. One was I wasn't well connected enough. I didn't know enough founders, owners, CEOs, board members, investors, startup communities in order to find those roles easily. And then I looked for an agency, company who could help me find those assignments, and I couldn't find one because there was not one focused on sales leaders. Those who existed at the time focused on the entire C-suite. And frankly, I didn't feel represented. And that was the eureka moment for me to say, well, that's the business idea that I've been looking for at that point 50 years. Let me take this and run with it. And that's what Vendux is today.
Amazing. So you experienced pain in your own journey and you just turned that into a business opportunity for you. And so many others who are going to be obviously thanking you for it.
I mean, the simple assumption at the beginning was that what I was missing, others must be missing too. And really a few phone calls confirmed that assumption. And to this day, finding assignments, creating a consistent rate of utilization is the hardest thing for every fractional executive, including sales leaders. And so we help them balance out their calendar. We are not and we don't want to be their only source of assignments. They should have other channels to market. But we want to be in the mix. We want to be one of those channels and help balance the workload and avoid the typical feast or famine scenario.
Yes. I'm curious, are you working only with the sales executives in the fractional space, or do you work with all other disciplines?
Well, I started out with only sales leaders because that was my personal background, and that's what Vendux was built around. Vendux is a play on two Latin words. Venditio is sale, and dux is leadership. So, it's in the name, and the focus of Vendux will continue to be sales leaders. However, we bought another platform last year called Shiny, and with Shiny, we do all the other C-suite functions. So now we can staff CMOs, CTOs, CIOs, COOs, CFOs. We can do all of those functions now.
I love it. So take me back to, and I want to talk about Shiny too, but I still have some more questions about Vendux. It's been 6 years. I'm guessing you started around in 2020, maybe before the pandemic.
Right before
COVID hit. Tell me what that journey has been from then up to this point.
Well, when we already mentioned the pandemic, the best thing about it is that we came out of it alive. The company is still around. Many others had to fold shop. We didn't make any placements in 2020 because companies, if you remember, they weren't interested in getting talent in the door. They were interested in getting rid of talent. Despite all the government money that was thrown around. We survived that, and then late 2020, early 2021, started making first placements. And it's been an interesting journey. I wish I could sit here and say it's been a journey of constant growth. That is not true. It's been a little bit of an up and down, though between 2021 and 2025, we definitely have seen growth. I've probably made a lot of mistakes along the way. I've invested in things that didn't provide the return that I was expecting. But I also did a few things right and invested in things that to this day deliver value and help us grow the business. So at this point, I've been able to take on a partner into the business who does what I do, work with clients, scope out the assignment, match the right executive, and then facilitate the contracting. So there are now two of us, and we're set for more growth. Shiny is one of those things that we're doing to grow, because now we can match into other roles and have a platform that feeds into our processes. We can learn from what Shiny does, but we also took some of our best practices and implemented them there. So as far as growth in the coming years go, I think that is for us a formula that works. Mm-hmm. We can take over existing platforms or existing businesses and make them better by putting our operational excellence and our approach into the business.
Great. So you have a partner in the business at Vendux. Tell me about the rest of your core team. Who else supports your operations and all the things that you do?
So I can take the path that a lot of startup founders do, and I can talk about the 7 people that I have, and they're all senior executives and on my executive team. And when you dive a little deeper, you understand that out of the $500,000 in revenue that the startup has, they couldn't possibly pay 7 senior executives. These are all fractionals. These are all people that are paid through equity, chosen a different path. We do have in total 7 people, but my partner and I are the only ones who work in the business full time. And for everything else, we contract it out. We have contractors for marketing, for IT, for taxes, for accounting, for lead gen. All of that is outsourced, and it's outsourced to different people. So the idea that we have for fractional executives, the right skill at the right time, is something that we also apply within Vendux, because over the 6 years, I needed different skills at different times, and bought those skills through 1099 contract.
So it's a lean model in your business, operational wise. Great.
Yes.
And is that the same philosophy with Shiny? Is it the same team that supports Shiny, or is it a different ecosystem altogether?
So when we bought Shiny, we took over the assets. We did not take over the people. We opted to use our own resources to run it, and that is what we're doing today. The resources behind both platforms are the same. Maybe at some point we'll have dedicated resources, but so far that's not necessary. And actually not a good thing, because we're still trying to learn from each other. And so if we have one person looking into automation, it helps to see both sides and see the best practices on both sides.
So let's talk about your acquisition of Shiny. What is Shiny for someone who's listening, and what does that platform do?
Well, Shiny can be found online under useshiny.com, and it's a matchmaking platform for fractional C-suite executives. It is fully automated. As an executive, you go there, you create your own profile, and as a company, you create a company profile and then start posting jobs. And then the engine brings the two together, runs a match similar to how we run matches on Vendux, and makes automated introductions. So that is the automated platform. What we have added to this is cross-selling between both platforms, because when we talk to founders over on the Vendux side, we pick up when they need other talent. And then we take that talent, that need, and bring it over to Shiny, post a job, interview the executives, and then make the introductions to the CEO or founder that is hiring.
Great. And what are some of the challenges that you're encountering with this platform as you are looking to scale and grow it?
Where do I begin? It's no, I should say it's a very well-built platform, and it does operate very autonomously um, in very well. What we were focused on is how do we increase the volume of opportunities on the platform. We have on Shiny 3,500 executives today, and we have new executive registrations every day, 10, 15 new executives. So there's no shortage on that side, but we do want more opportunities, and the platform frankly can handle more opportunities.
Okay.
The challenges that we encountered, the things that we did were really all targeted towards that. We started a blog post, we started a newsletter, we started to be more active on social media like LinkedIn. Those are some of the things that we've done. We've also used the leverage that we have through Vendux and through the fact that we've been in this space over 6 years now to put Shiny in front of more decision makers and have them take a look. And as a result, we've seen a tremendous increase in revenue already over the last 4 or 5 months, and hopefully more to come.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so pleased to hear that. So tell me about, you said that you have people signing up every day for this platform for a fractional work on the candidate side.
Yeah.
Is that a 1-to-1 ratio where you have the same number of companies who are looking for talent, or is there a balance? Is there one more on the other? How do you maintain that, or do you at all?
So from a model perspective, it can't possibly be a 1-to-1 ratio because there are so many different roles out there, so many different types of companies, and we always want to find the right executive. So take a sales leader, for example. We don't just want to say, okay, you're looking for a CRO, here's a CRO, because we match on criteria like what type of product or service are they selling? How long is the sales cycle? Who are they selling to? How big is the deal size? What type of sale are they executing? What's the current challenge that is impeding growth for the client? Those are some of the criteria that we match against. And in order to always find the person who checks all of these boxes, we need to have a roster that is far greater than the number of opportunities. For an executive or a candidate, that means you shouldn't be relying on one channel only to provide you opportunities. And in fact, our own studies show that 80% of all fractional opportunities are the result of networks, are the result of relationships. And that means an executive needs to put themselves out there, needs to network, needs to join communities in order to find roles, and then we and other platforms can supplement that. And the most successful fractional executives use 4 or 5 different channels to market, and Vendux and Shiny can be one of those, but there need to be others.
Yeah, no, definitely. What is the requirement list, or how do I put it, the application criteria to accept candidates on Shiny? I mean, is a barrier to entry high, low? What does that look like?
Well, we want the executives to meet the criteria, the definition, the true definition of what is a fractional executive. I'm also a member of the Fractional Leadership Alliance, which is a industry association. In fact, the only industry association in the fractional space. And we came up with the definition, and the definition centers around the word fractional and executive. So it needs to be somebody that takes on part-time contractor 1099 type roles. This isn't moonlighting. This isn't doing 3 or 4 hours a week of work at night or early in the morning. You need to be a committed fractional executive. And the other phrase here is executive. It has to be the leader of a key function in the organization. And ideally somebody who reports to a GM, a founder, an owner, a CEO within the organization. Those two phrases together really define the role. And if you call yourself a fractional CFO, you should have held CFO positions before in your career. Simply put, if you've been an accountant all your career, that's great, but then don't call yourself a fractional CFO when you
Sure.
enter the CFO world. So we look for executives who meet that definition of what a fractional executive truly is.
Awesome. Let's switch tracks to your role day to day as the leader of, two companies. You have Vendux, you have Shiny. What does your day to day look like?
A lot of Zoom calls. Every day, a lot of Zoom calls.
Including the ones.
Well, some are very pleasant, like this one here. Then I have a lot still on the executive side where I do discovery calls with executives. I also coach executives because most executives who enter the fractional world after a 20 or 30-year career are great subject matter experts because they've excelled in a industry vertical, in a function. They've solved tremendous problems and created tremendous wealth for the companies that they worked for. But most of them have never built a business around themselves. They've never understood. They never had to describe their superpowers, brand themselves, marketing themselves, sell themselves. And so that learning is something that I also am involved in. I run a business called Be Fractional that does exactly that. And so through that or some other calls, I do coach fractions. I also talk a lot to business owners, CEOs, founders about fractional roles. There still needs to be a lot of education in this space. One of the reasons we started the association, the Fractional Leadership Alliance, is because we felt if all the companies in this space got together and pooled their resources, their know-how, their reach, that we could speak with a louder voice and be heard more. And so because I can talk one-on-one to, only a certain number of CEOs or founders every day and be heard. And so that's still a big part of my day. Then I also try to figure out how can we generate growth. And I said earlier that I've done things in the last 6 years that didn't work out well, and I've done others that have had tremendous success. So I'm trying to find the new things that can help us grow the business and make us more successful as an organization.
Yeah, no, great. You just mentioned that you coach industry leaders who've had a great career in their industries, and they come with their subject matter experts. What are the common characteristics that you find when they're switching to looking for more fractional opportunities? What are the things that are maybe common obstacles or character traits that you have to coach them over and over again to kind of get over those mindset blocks?
Yeah, I can think of a few. One is the notion of understanding that you find riches in niches. Because after a 30-year career, every executive has done almost everything during their career. If you've been a sales leader, you managed key accounts, wrote playbooks, you wrote comp plans, you wrote contracts, you signed enterprise deals, you ran a call center, you've done, you name it, you've done all of it. Or a lot of people have done almost all of this in their career. But now it's important to define the niche that you can be successful in as a fractional executive. And so to go and say, I'm a fractional CRO, no one's interested in that. I mean, that's not getting anyone's attention. But if you say, I help fintech founders grow from 1 to 5 million, that gets the attention of those fintech founders. So describe your superpower in a niche way so that the right audience sees that and says, this is my guy or this is my gal.
Yeah.
That's the person that can help. So that's one of the things that fractional executives need to understand, need to learn. They also need to learn how to price themselves.
Yeah.
There's a lot of science and a lot of art in the pricing. It's not about doing what your buddy tells you or your friend tells you, because that might not be applicable. It's this combination of external factors. So the industry, the ICP that you're targeting, that's a key factor. So if you ran 100-person sales teams globally, lots of complexity, that's a different pay scale than a startup that's trying to grow from 1 to 5 million in the US. And you have to understand that the pay scale is different. It's smaller at that company. So you have to, whatever your ICP, whatever your superpower, your target is, you have to price yourself for that target audience. And then the second group of factors is everything around yourself, because we all have a sense of our value, a pride in what we think we can deliver, often driven by what we made before. We also, need, there are certain needs that we have. We still, when you're a fractional executive, you still have to pay bills. It might be a mortgage or a college bill. So understand what it is at a minimum that you have to make in order to sustain your lifestyle or the lifestyle that you aim for. So bring that together, and I teach a master class that's an hour long just on pricing, because there are so many things to consider.
That's true.
So it's not about me telling anybody what they should charge. It's more about fostering the understanding of all the different factors that influence the fractional rates.
Yeah. I would definitely think that pricing is a tricky thing for sure. And also to some extent, personal branding and showing up on LinkedIn. If that is something that you coach them, that you need to build a brand and you need to be an authority in your subject matter, right?
Correct.
That's the other thing. Visibility is sometimes like, okay, do I have to do that? So it kind of takes some mindset coaching to get over those things too. Which brings me to my other point. At Vendux, how you work with a lot of fractional leaders. Because it's different from traditional recruiting, how does pay or pricing or the subject of money come about in the negotiations? Is it something that companies come and tell you that these are our requirements, this is what we're willing to pay, not pay, or is that something how does that conversation happen?
Yeah. That's a great question. And the answer is as early in the process as possible, but it can't be the first thing you talk about, because we first need to understand a little bit about the company, about the sales scenario. Where are they today? Who is selling? What does a typical contract look like? Who are their current clients? How many do they have? What revenue do they generate? Who are they going after? Do they have preferred targets? What's their lead source? How do they go to market? What role does marketing play in this? We need to understand all these circumstances, and then we need to understand the goals that they have for the fractional executive. What is the roadblock today? What's the problem they're looking to solve? Because most fractional executives come in to solve a very particular problem. They're not coming in to fill a box on an org chart that says fractional VP of sales or fractional CRO. They come in because the company has a particular problem. Maybe the founder who's run sales so far needs to fundraise and needs to immediately get out of sales. Maybe they have a few reps, but there is no consistent playbook to use. Maybe they need to hire 5 new reps. Maybe they're targeting enterprise accounts now and need that skill set and education on enterprise sales. Whatever it is, there is a problem to solve. And the executive needs to be matched into that scenario. They need to be able to confidently say, I've solved this problem before. I've been in this exact scenario before. And that to us is what we call the perfect match. That is our trademark for somebody that is the right person to bring in, because in my observation, in my opinion, it's not about character fit in fractional. It's not about, development potential. It's about having done before what the client is setting out to accomplish. And if that is the perfect match, that's the right executive to bring in, because fractional executives don't have a learning curve. They don't have a lot of time to solve the problem. The average assignment last year was about 9 months, and they don't have a lot of time because they're there 10 hours a week or 12 hours a week, right? This isn't 60 to 80 hours a week.
Sure.
So, and the way to overcome all of those hurdles is to bring somebody in who has solved that problem before.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's a stark different field from traditional recruiting where culture fit and personality and development and the room to grow is so important. That's probably one of the first few things. Then comes everything else. I mean, an equal measure for sure, but definitely cultural fit is important. And you're saying that is not so much of an important thing if you're a fractional.
It, it's definitely not the most important thing. The way that I would look at that is a little bit as a red flag or a go, no go. Because sometimes when you talk to people, if you get an uneasy feeling, and if you have an uneasy feeling, you should walk away. Either the executive or the client. If that feeling is there, walk away. Don't try to make it fit. But if that feeling does not exist, focus on the functional fit. Focus on the fact that they can solve this particular problem that you have, and then they will be successful.
Excellent. I'd love to know for Vendux, what's working for you in terms of attracting new client companies like partnerships as a referrals, and what still feels like it could be more predictable or scalable this year for 2026?
Everything could be more predictable. In that, we're no different from most other startups or scale-ups. There is little predictability. So when we experimented with different lead gen sources, you follow the typical approach that exists out there that centers around personalization, that centers around triggers, that tries to, from the outside in, determine whether this company or this CEO or founder is ready to buy. And in my blunt observation, I would say that doesn't work in fractional because you cannot tell from the outside whether somebody's ready or not. So I put my message out in front of thousands of people and say, are you ready to hire a fractional sales leader? Do you have a problem in sales to solve? But that's a very wasteful approach that frankly hasn't proven success, because in order for a company, in order for a CEO or founder to buy fractional executive services, three things have to be in place. They have to have a problem, they have to know that the problem exists, and they will have to want to do something about it. And without all three being in place, there's no point in me shouting. I cannot convince somebody that they have a problem that they're not seeing themselves. I can't convince somebody to do something about a problem that they have decided not to do something about it. So what has worked well for us is to continually build relationships with founders, owners, and CEOs. We do this on LinkedIn. We do this in-person events. We do this through our newsletter. We do this through communities that we're a member of. And then we publish a lot of content. It's one of those things that, when you talked earlier, what does an executive need to learn? That was one of the things for me to learn, because I never really was one who posted their opinions on social media and who put stuff out there that is pointed and that expresses an opinion or an observation. And I had to learn to do that. And it works really well. And then we work a lot through partnerships, because in this space there are a lot of smaller companies. Everyone is interested in collaboration. Everyone has opportunities that they discover that are not for them. So for us, when we uncover within Vendux a CMO opportunity or a CTO opportunity, we've passed those on to other companies. And likewise, we have others bringing sales leadership opportunities to us. One of the biggest assets that we've built is this roster of 1,200 executives that we know a lot about, and where we've built a search engine that can actually identify a person that is just the right fit for a role. That's a tremendous asset that we've built. And others, even if they have their own roster of sales leaders, come to us because we have the biggest roster and we have the ability to identify the right executive. And so that's the sense of collaboration that exists in the industry, and that's another big lead source for us.
Excellent. And I got to say that for whoever's watching, I have personally read Henning's blogs on the Vendux site. If anybody wants to understand how to present their opinions in a respectful way, yet making those points and, being so, great insights and experience, you have to check out Vendux. And I think I'm going to have you tell us where to find you, Henning, because we're coming to a close. But this has been a great conversation. And I so agree on that you need to build your own brand and present your point of opinion and everything else and do a little bit of content marketing for yourself. So that brings me to my last couple of questions. What's your advice for fractional leaders who are looking to make their mark in 2026? What would you say to them? And I know it's like a loaded question, but even a couple of words would help.
Yeah, I mean, all the advice or all the thoughts that I've already voiced in the context of our conversation so far, they all apply. I think not being shy, taking advice from others, not being shy to copy what others are doing. I think that's one of the keys. If things aren't working, obviously don't continue to do them. Do something else, try something new. And above all, don't give up. The supply side of the fractional executive market today in the US is marked by somewhat of an oversupply. There are more executives than there are roles, and so a lot of executives experience an underutilization. They want to work 30 or 35 hours a week, but they only can bill 20. And of course, those are averages. There are those who are very successful, but there are also those who run 1 or 2 assignments, and that's not filling their calendar. So don't give up. The space will continue to grow. We've seen growth and expansion over the 6 years, and that will continue because the rate of utilization is still very, very low. In total, we estimate that only about 15% of all companies, all SMBs, have used a fractional executive so far. And in sectors outside of SaaS and tech, it's way lower than that. It's probably something like 5 or 7% of all manufacturing companies have used a fractional executive. So there's a lot of room to grow, and join communities, join associations that amplify voices and that educate, and that will help the growth in the market for all of us.
Excellent. Thank you. Where can people connect with you online and offline?
Yeah. So one place is definitely LinkedIn. I'm happy to report that Henning Schwinum, if you put that into LinkedIn, there's only one. Unlike Bill Miller, where there are thousands, I have a unique name, so there's only one. But you can also go to our website, Vendux, vendux.org. And then, as Amisha mentioned, you can subscribe to our newsletter. You can read our blogs. There's plenty of education on the website, in addition to learning about us. But reach out to me either through the website or on LinkedIn.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll do that. And thanks for all your time today. Thanks for being able to record this podcast.
My pleasure, Misha. Thank you for having me.